More now on the breaking news we have been telling you about. Federal authorities may be ready to indict baseball great Roger Clemens on charges of making false statements to Congress. That was in February of '08 about his use of performance-enhancing drugs. A person familiar with the investigation tells Bloomberg that Clemens faces possible criminal charges. 2.5 years ago, Clemens and his former trainer, Brian McNamee, testified under oath at a congressional hearing, directly contradicting each other about whether Clemens had used banned substances. Joining us now is Bloomberg sports columnist Scott Soshnick. Is this a surprise?
No, because all along the feds seem to have at least agreed with much of what McNamee was saying. Even at the time, the only person who had a lot to lose was McNamee. He could go to jail if he had lied to the feds. So here he was telling his side of the story, getting it backed up by guys like Andy Pettit, very good friends with Roger Clemens, who said, yeah, we talked about HGH years ago. And then Roger Clemens said, well, that's not exactly how the conversation went. So everything seemed to be pointing towards the fact that Roger Clemens was not telling the truth.
And you and I talked after those hearings, because the interesting thing was it was the House Government Oversight Committee. I believe Henry Waxman was the chairman at the time, the Democrat from California. And he was not thrilled with the answers he was getting from Roger Clemens, or the non-answers.
Not only the non-answers, but he apologized to McNamee for some of the questions and how he was characterized. And then, if you remember, during Waxman's closing statement, while he was apologizing to McNamee, Roger Clemens interrupted him.
That's right.
And Waxman slammed the gavel down and said, this is not your time. This must have been a moment for Roger Clemens where he said to himself, I'm not in charge anymore. For a guy who built a career on intimidation, on owning the pitcher's mound in the spotlight, it must have been a brushback pitch of his own where he realized, I may be in trouble here.
What does this do to Roger Clemens' legacy? Because it's already obviously been damaged by what's happened thus far. Is this just emphasizing that? This is assuming that you have the indictment and then that it's successful.
Yeah, we're talking the official indictment and if he's found. But you know what? In the mind of sports fans, I think everybody had already kind of figured in, much like you would figure in bad news into a stock price, you kind of figured in what was going on with Roger Clemens already, that these were dirty wins, dirty strikeout records, Cy Youngs, all those things. So his stature in the game, it's the same as A-Rod. As he pursues a record, we say, well, it's really a hollow record because nobody really cares. It's not really a clean record. So people will view kind of the historical Roger Clemens in that same vein.
Well, remember, I believe it was Miguel Tejada who had testified, too, when he was accused of making comments that were untrue. What happens? Do you get a slap on the wrist?
Marion Jones went to jail. So if you look at what has gone on historically with the steroids issue, these athletes did not get in trouble for using the banned substances, even though they were illegal. It's the lying under oath. And where Barry Bonds has given himself some wiggle room that Roger Clemens did not, a very subtle difference. Barry Bonds said, I never knowingly took steroids.
And just one quick question here. You mentioned the Roger Clemens personality, that this was a big blow to him when Waxman, sort of shut him down. Given that, how big of a blow will it be if he goes to jail?
Well, it's a huge blow if he goes to jail. The guy loses his freedom, but he's always kind of looked at himself as bigger than the game, larger than life. And that will be taken away. People will certainly look at him a little differently, and he can't command that high ground anymore, moral or otherwise. It just won't be that presence that he had on the mound.
All right, Bloomberg sports columnist Scott Soshnick joining us. Scott, thanks so much. Appreciate it.